Three, two, one. Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother.
Almost
Mike
got
Smith.
through it. Almost got through it. I just love the new addition to our staff.
I think the female voice
throws you.
on Zoom, it's, and I'm like, I can get through this. I can get to, but I see you in my periphery and it just doesn't help.
Yeah,
so.
I've got this big grin on my face when I hear, well,
Yeah.
you're now recording.
That's going to have to do it for the opening. I'm not repeating that again this week as I did last week. So it is June 6, 2021, and welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. For those of you that are not currently following us, make sure that you do. Easiest way to find all things Oh Brothers, to go out to our official website, which is ohbpodcast.com. It's OHB as in brother, podcast.com. And you can get access to everything out there, all of our social media content. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our videos out there because we put pretty much every one of our episodes out on our YouTube channel. So you can find those there. We've got a blog that we put out almost weekly that you can catch up on there if you haven't been following that. And this week, we're doing an episode on the latest Disney live action film, Cruella, which is also, again, another Disney Plus Premier Access option. We'll talk about that in a minute. Before we do that, though, I wanted to say, we were just off air. We were talking about the temperature, the weather. It's there's been no spring.
No.
It's right into summer. And being that this would be Dad's birthday, something he always liked to say is it's too hot to shit. He was, and he did have a stint as a weatherman at one point, as if you remember Little Albert Dickey.
Yeah.
Now that's a deep cut inside reference for just you and me, but
I remember
it is sweltering out.
when I was moving to Florida and you guys were following me.
Yeah.
Dad was big with the CBs, the CB radio.
Yeah.
And we would talk, back and forth the whole way.
This was the trip when we drove down.
Yeah, there was more than one.
Well, you remember the one we were on the plane and we got stranded at
we got stranded
Dulles
in
Airport
Washington.
Yeah.
And then we just hopped a flight to
it was like
Fort
1 in the
Lauderdale.
morning. Yeah, like 1 in the morning on an icy tarmac. That was fun.
And they were like, we got one flight going out to Fort Lauderdale, and we were like, we'll take it, because we were in there with 12 hours.
Miserable.
And so we went to Fort Lauderdale, had to rent a car, drive to Orlando. So, but I can remember on the CB, and we would drive straight, from Boston to Orlando.
Yeah.
And Dad would just say things, that I never heard before. Like, we'd drive by somebody and they'd be like, oh, that guy's older than dirt. It would just make me laugh the whole time. And
that's where all those classic references came from.
Yeah. So.
It's funny, is a quick funny story of Dad was one of my favorites that involved he and I. He was in he built this addition onto the house back up in Boston, and had a sliding glass doors that went out onto a deck, whatever. And so it was like 4th of July, I believe it was, and we were shooting off. You remember those fireworks that you shot it off and then like an army guy parachuted down?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So we were shooting those off out back over the trees or whatever. And we were going in and out of onto the deck and back into the house. And at one point he turns around in full force, not realizing that the screen door was closed, walked right through the screen door. Oh, it's great. And there was another time where I rolled over his bare feet in a rolling chair like I'm on right now with the casters, those casters. And he let out the biggest MF that you've ever. He's like, mother F. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. But it lasted 2 seconds and he was like, all right, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if we were doing this, it would not be Oh Brother, it would be Oh Brother and Dad.
Oh,
because
for
he would
sure.
find a way to
Yeah,
get in on this.
like Rich Hall, he'd be coming in right
Yeah.
now to your shot.
They'd be like, "What you doing, kid?"
Yeah. Hey, kid. Hey, did I
Yeah.
show you my gun collection
Yeah.
lately?
Yeah, would be in the middle of something and say, "Hey, I got this
Yeah.
34."
Come down to the basement. Let me show you some things. Well, speaking of doors, I another quick story that we'll jump into the review of this film is, if you notice behind me, I have a DVD box set season 1 of The Incredible Hulk, starring
Oh yeah,
the late great Bill Bixby and of course Lou
Bill
Ferrigno
Bixby.
as
Yeah,
Hulk, as the Incredible Hulk, which was a favorite of mine as a kid growing up. I loved that series, saw every episode,
yeah.
and I was leaving my girlfriend's house this morning to head back to my place, and she's been having trouble, like the inside of her front door, the handle was like fell off, and
Mm.
so you had to kind of had to just sort of rig it back up and put it in there. And so I very gently this morning as I was leaving, because I didn't want to disturb her, it was kind of early and just let her sleep in a little bit more. So I'm leaving and I was very gentle with the inside handle, to get the door open so I could get out. So I get out and then I go to very just sort of gently pull it closed to secure the door, make sure it's good to go. I barely,
Clink.
I barely tugged it. The whole mechanism and the handle went flying across the front steps. There were springs and coils and screws and stuff
Oh,
everywhere. And so
oh
then I look
man.
and there's nothing on the door. I'll have to maybe put a photo out of this, but there's just no door handle whatsoever to be found.
You just trashed it.
So now here I am trying to do a good thing by not disturbing her sleep. And now I have to call her and say, hey, you have to come to the door because there's no door handle and I can't put it back on. So needless to say, she had to take off and make an unexpected early trip to Lowe's.
See
But
now,
I hulked that thing like I didn't even
if
intend to.
if
What is
I
it with
had,
me indoors? I kicked my door in, I ripped her door handle off.
yeah, and
Crazy.
I could tell 100 dad stories, but let's get to the movie.
It's good stuff. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's his
probably
today's his birthday, so
yeah, today's his birthday. Now, by the time you hear this, it's probably going to be what'll it be? I don't know, June 11th, probably by the time you
yeah,
hear this episode, because we're recording a little bit early, but returning back to maybe one of the favorite subjects for Mike that we've done over all of these episodes is the Premier Access
30
options
bucks.
on Disney Plus. You keep coming back to the well. We're doing it again.
30
So yeah, I
bucks.
mean, you probably could have saved yourself some money. Just go see this in the theater. But by the time you get through concessions and just the aggravation of that whole experience, sometimes it's
Yeah.
not worth it. So this came out just,
Did you think of going to the theater to
I
see
did.
this?
Yeah, I did. I actually did. I thought about going on Friday night and I just didn't.
Because it would have
So
been cheaper.
yeah. And I just wasn't sure now with some of the, a lot of the restrictions being lifted, like it's going to be real crowded on a Friday night. So I just skipped it. I figured
Yeah.
out watching in the comfort of my own home. So this is really like a prequel, like an origin story about Cruella DeVille.
Cruel Devil.
Yeah. And so it's directed by Craig Gillespie. Gillespie. What am I saying?
I don't know.
What's his
Gillespie,
name again?
maybe?
Gillespie,
Gillespie?
possibly. Yeah. And so it came out on May 28th, and it's doing well as far as the reviews. Like Rotten Tomatoes, it's almost 100% from the audience
Really?
side of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And the critics, it's I think almost 75%. So it's pretty
Stars
solid.
Emma Watson, now in the role of Cruella.
Yeah, it's actually you knew one of us would get this wrong. It's actually Emma Stone, not
Did I
Emma
say
Watson.
what did
Yeah,
I?
you're
Oh, I
thinking
said
of Emily
Emma
Watson.
Watson. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
I'm
there's Emma
thinking of Emma
Watson,
Watson
Emily
from
Blunt,
Beauty and the
Emma.
Beast.
Yeah, and if you look at this,
And
Emma
this has two
Stone,
Emmas.
Emma Stone,
Emma
Dame
Thompson.
Dame Emma Thompson, if you want to make that distinction.
Yeah.
Emily Beecham, who played Estella, the young Cruella, played her mother.
Oh, the young girl. Okay.
Well, no, her mother in the film was played by Emily Beecham, and then
Okay.
her young self was played by the girl's name is Tipper Seifert Cleveland. It's a hyphenated last name. It was
She was
really,
good.
she was really good. And it was strange because I mean, I don't know how it works on IMDb. If you look, her credit is like way like page 2 before you even find her. I'm like, she was a
Yeah.
main, a main star in the film, really, at least in
Yeah.
her, young self. So, yeah, so there's the cast. And again, it's an origin story of the character.
A lot of people don't realize Cruella de Vil, the name, comes from cruel devil. Literally, that's how they got the name.
Right.
And people don't really make that connection. Here they kind of beat it over the head because the one guy yells up, "Hey, I'm in a car, it's a devil."
Right.
You
It's
know,
pronounced DeVille.
yeah,
Hey, I
exactly.
like that. Okay, we get
Yeah,
it. And then
right.
she
Blah blah
adopts
blah.
that name. Right.
Before we get into the movie, let me ask you. Let's do a quiz
Yeah.
here. Little Mermaid. Name me a song, an original song from Little Mermaid.
I have Little Mermaid right behind me, actually.
Under the
Yeah,
sea,
right. Right.
under the sea, do
Right.
do do do. Um, Name me a hit song, Beauty and the Beast.
Well, I mean, the title track in
The
that one,
title track. Okay,
Beauty and the
tougher one.
Beast.
Aladdin.
Right. It's in my head. The magic carpet ride.
A whole
A
new
whole new world. Right.
world.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. No
What
need to
else do I
sing
got?
it, though. Okay, get to the point.
Lion King. Name me a song
Get to
from
the
Lion King.
point.
Name me a song, an original song from Cruella.
No, right.
Can't do it
No,
because there isn't
not
one.
not trying to do it. Don't
Because
really
there isn't one.
care. Right.
This is the problem with Disney movies. They have forgotten what got them so big. Back in the early days, you had the brothers, the Sherman brothers, right? That
Right.
wrote hit after hit after hit. And we remember all those early Disney movies from the songs, all the great
Right.
songs.
Okay, so
Eh,
name me a song
Okay.
from 101 Dalmatians.
I,
Can't
you
do it.
know, no, I
Can't do it.
could. I
Name me a
could.
song from the whether it's the animated or the live action
I, I,
1996 version.
well, that's a remake, and there is a song.
Right.
There is a couple of songs that they wrote
But the point
for
is
it.
you don't your memory of those is as good as, your point
Well,
here is that there isn't anything.
yeah, but they're 50 years
And that
old.
was part of your argument with Mulan was about the music,
Correct.
but
And
it's
I'm continuing the same argument because, Raya. Name me a song from Raya.
right. But this is what your main argument's going to be about this whole
No,
thing.
it's one of my arguments
Okay.
that there's
All
no
right.
music. Now, I happen to like some of the soundtrack because it was all 70s stuff. There was a lot of Rolling Stones. There was different stuff they used. But, Disney is created for these hit tunes. You go to Broadway and you see Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or
But that's usually
Aladdin.
but that's usually because they were infused within the animated story. They were part of the animated story. There was some, right? There was some sequence, some song and dance sequence with the
Yes.
characters,
And if
right?
you go back to 101 Dalmatians, there is a song. I just, I should have looked it up and had it ready for you.
Right. But I don't think I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that argument is, I
I
wouldn't say
think
that
it's
it's not,
one element.
yeah, I'm not saying it's not relevant, but the whole, you already said it yourself, this story, one of the driving forces of this film is the British pop soundtrack, which is like ELO and the Doors, and you
Right.
mentioned the Stones. There's a lot of different,
But
tunes on
it's
here.
supposed to be a prequel. So it's supposed to come before the story that has music. So it doesn't,
No, but
doesn't,
you're talking the animated one.
right.
Okay, but it's live action. There's no, you can't, I think you
Right.
have to stop making those comparisons, right? We're
Well,
just in a different, this is a whole different
yeah,
genre, if you will,
but
now with
that's
these
why
live action
people
films.
remember these
Well,
some of
90,
these.
97% of the audience doesn't seem to care about that.
Well,
So you're on an island with
I'm in
this
the
one, I hate to say.
3%. I'm in the
Right.
3%.
And Disney
And I'll
doesn't care
tell you
about that
why. I'll
3%.
tell you why. Not
Yeah.
just the music. That was just one
Well,
element.
I
But
have something I want to say about the music. So
okay,
I'm
go
actually
ahead.
glad you brought it up. Well,
Good.
just that I feel like as great as that soundtrack is, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of nice tracks on there,
Yeah.
I felt as though at times it was overshadowing the film, the story. Like
Yeah.
it was its own character, which in some ways it was supposed to be, but it almost there was too much emphasis on that driving the story forward in a way. Does that
I
make
think you're
sense?
right. I
Yeah.
agree with you, and I think it plays to my argument that the songs are they bring these stories to life
Right,
for me.
but the only way to do it in this case or in these films is just it's still going to be in the background or over the
Right,
title
I agree.
sequence, right? You're
And
not
I think
suggesting.
I think Alan Menken could have written some great tunes for some of these scenes, especially in the early
Now
stuff.
I don't
I
remember.
liked the early stuff.
Yeah, the end credits title sequence was, I guess, was that another familiar tune? That wasn't an original. I can't remember now, and I just watched it. Whatever's playing over the end credits sequence. Do you recall? See,
I
yeah,
don't recall it
yeah. Well,
what it
again,
was.
if yeah, well, that there you go. That supports your argument a little
And
bit,
I
but
did watch all the credit, the
yeah.
whole in
So
case
I hear what you're
there's
saying, but I think there's more to talk about with this film because I think what we have to do is when we're talking about these, just separate it from the animated altogether. Let's just take it for what it is, which is Disney's live action,
right. Which
and
I think
and you can compare this within the other set of live action films. We
right.
can talk about this as
But
compared to
the
Mulan
other
and
live
Jungle
action
Book and
films are so they're just remakes of the animated, right? This is its
yeah,
own
for the most
story.
part, sure, sure,
So it's a little different in that sense. But
right.
a couple of things we've never really talked about, some of the lingo, like foreshadowing. Explain what foreshadowing is.
Yeah, so foreshadowing would be, something sort of subtle that's placed in a sequence that is basically predicting something to come,
Yeah.
right? Later
And
in the
Hitchcock
story.
did this a lot.
Hitchcock
Like,
was a master of it. Yeah,
or if you think of a movie Basic Instinct, right, where there's a big thing where the killer uses a pick, an
right,
ice pick,
right.
and the director, scans the room and you just catch a glimpse of the ice pick. And later on, that
Yeah,
kind of
some object that has major significance to the plot later
later
on.
on,
Right.
right. Now, in Cruella, when she was a little girl, and I liked the sequence early on. I
Yeah,
liked how it started.
I did too.
The young actress was really good with her
She was
mother
good. Yeah.
until it got to the point where they went to get some money. Okay, and there's a sequence where they go to this big mansion, and she the little girl's confused,
Mhm.
and she sees her mother. Her mother says, "Stay in the car."
Yeah.
Oh, and she's just not going to do that because that's not who she is. So she sneaks out and she sees all these beautiful gowns and this big ritzy stuff. And then she goes outside and she sees her mother talking to somebody we can't see. The back is to us. And all of a sudden, these Dalmatians come running out of nowhere,
Mhm.
knock her mother over the cliff. Soon as that happened, okay, all I could think of from that point until we find out who that woman was okay, what's the connection there? Why did that happen? And who is that lady? Right? That's all that was in my head. Now, this was a foreshadowing
Right.
of things to come,
Yeah.
but it kind of ruined a lot of the next piece of the puzzle for me because all I wanted to know was the answer to my question.
Well, and there's right, and then there's the mother's also wearing a necklace, which is like an
Uh,
heirloom.
Yes, she wasn't wearing it when she went over. She gave it to the daughter before she went in.
Exactly. Right. Right. She
Yeah,
takes it off before she gets
she
out. But
takes it off
again,
before.
a foreshadowing.
Correct.
you know.
Correct. Another foreshadow.
Right, right.
So we mention this a lot of times, and we have a name for it. We call it Joe McDokes.
Oh, right. You'll
And
have to
why,
explain that
yeah, I'll
from
explain. It's
from
an
from
old
what that.
TV show
Yeah. I just
where
see
this,
the 8 ball and the.
yes, Joe McDokes hiding behind the eight ball, which is this famous saying, oh, I'm behind the eight ball. And in that TV show, everything was so foreshadowed, you could predict the ending from the beginning.
Right.
So for us, we that was the ultimate foreshadowing. So we named it. We named
Yeah.
foreshadowing Joe
It was
McDokes.
Joe McDokes.
So anyway, but so that was my first issue that I had that I didn't like. But
Okay.
you go ahead and talk a little
So
bit.
is it that you wanted that to pay off sooner, or just the
Yeah,
fact that okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting because I mean, again, that's
Because
the whole point of foreshadowing.
yeah, and sometimes I think directors screw it up. Sometimes
Yeah.
directors foreshadow things they don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a case where it was too much. It was too much because even after we find out that it was her, there's more to come. They hit
Yeah.
you with another bang, which was still in my head. When we found out who it was, I still wanted to know the connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say to you is I knew what was going to happen. I figured that out from the opening sequence,
Hmm. Yeah.
which
Well, and
really
the casual viewer may
maybe
not
not.
may not
Right.
have as much an issue with that. For
Right.
me, where this is if you're gonna do an origin story,
Yeah.
the reveal of that character
Yeah.
when that transformation takes place, right? So now it's an origin story, meaning there's already some well developed character that we're already familiar with.
Glenn Close. Is that
Yeah,
who you mean?
right. But also just from the animated, like we know Cruella Deville.
Yes.
We don't know how she became Cruella Deville, right?
Correct. Correct.
So so it's so important to get that reveal correct.
Yeah.
When that transformation takes place, it's gotta there's gotta I think it has to feel like it's blended along with the well established character we've all come to know, whether it's this 1961 animated feature or the 1996 remake.
Right. Right.
And for me, that was one of the first problems I had with this was
Yeah.
I did like the opening sequence. I liked that whole third of it with the young girl. I thought she did a
Yes.
really good job.
Yes.
And she meets up with these two young kids, these other, and they become kind of this grifting team into their adulthood. And that
Right.
plays out through the rest of the film. But the reveal of her as Cruella just fell flat for me. I was thinking about, and we've talked about him multiple times on the podcast, but Heath Ledger, and I'm certainly not making any comparison between the performances or anything, but just I don't know why, but I was thinking about his appearance in that scene in The Dark Knight where he shows up at the cocktail party.
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
I only have one question. Where is Harvey Dent?
There's a similar sequence here where Cruella, formerly known as Estella, shows up, and it just I ended up more invested in Estella's story than I did in Cruella's story.
Not only were you more invested, the characters liked Estella better,
Right.
or were more.
And you know what it was for me is there wasn't, at least it didn't feel like it to me. And in fact, I think we don't get this piece of information, to your point, till almost the very end of the film, which is what was the catalyst what was the impetus behind her becoming Cruella? because she says, and I wrote it down. She says people need a villain to believe in,
Mhm.
right? So this isn't Jack Napier falling into a vat of acid and becoming the Joker. This isn't, like those kind of transformations.
Yeah.
She just had to put on a persona to sort of get back at this woman who she didn't even really know who she was at that point
No, but
yet.
she
Now, right now,
knew that.
anybody listening is like, "What in the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah,
But
they're all
I,
over the
I,
place.
I'm trying not to spoil the details of this particular version of the story, but and again, it's its own unique story. But my simple point was just the fact that her entrance as Cruella, I thought should have been much more climatic, and I just thought that was a little stale. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure. She comes into this kind of what is it, a fashion designer ball, right? Is
correct.
where she makes the entrance because
Right,
she's now trying to compete with this Baroness, who's
right.
this very well-known fashion designer. So
Played by Emma Thompson.
played by Emma Thompson, right?
But, to answer your question, I think the impetus is she feels this woman is partly responsible for the death of her mother.
Right. But she the day before didn't have that information. She gets the information the next day, she's all of a sudden the Joker. Like it just that
Yeah,
really didn't work for me. She's talking different because she's basically taking on the Baroness persona, is what she's doing.
that's true. That's
That's really
true.
what she's doing, which makes a little
Yeah,
bit more sense further into the film. But if you want to make that point, so for me, it was sort of because even her grifting buddies are like, what now
yeah,
you're still talking funny like that? What
yeah.
like
Why are you talking like
why are you
that?
still talking like that? Because
Right.
there's a scene prior where
Correct.
she gets into
And
that
she
character.
also, after she reveals herself, she
Yeah.
goes back to her buddies and she's still acting like Cruella, not Estella.
Yeah, and you're telling me the Baroness character who so as Estella gets a job as a fashion designer with the Baroness.
Yeah,
It's like a
very
dream job for her.
and
This is what
very
she wanted to.
tight,
It's what she
side by
wanted
side with her.
side by side, right? Like a protege.
Right.
And this is her dream as a little kid. She wants to be a fashion designer. So now she's got
Mhm.
this opportunity. Um, but I just felt like, okay, so now the Baroness, it was like a Clark Kent scenario for
I
me.
was gonna say
She
it's
puts on a
Superman.
mask and she doesn't
Yeah.
recognize her.
And all of a sudden it's like, that
Yeah,
who is that?
I just didn't buy that.
I didn't buy that
I
either.
just wasn't willing to suspend disbelief in that particular case. I guess
And
I
that's
should
what you
have,
have
but
to
that's what they're
do.
asking me to do. But
Right. That's what you have to do.
I wasn't willing to do it.
And I think you are going to agree with me as far as the length of this film
Yeah,
was
2 hours,
way too long.
way too long. 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Way too
And they
long.
keep doing this to us. There's just
Yeah.
no need.
No need
There's
for
plenty of fat to trim on this film. Plenty of trap. Right. And I didn't hate it. Like I thought it was okay. I'm not
it. Yeah.
if you had to pin me down right now and give it a rating, it's probably, a 5 or 6 maybe. And
Out
maybe
of
that's
10.
out of
But
10.
on
Yeah.
a 5, 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm the
Yeah.
same as you. I didn't hate it,
Right.
but wow, a lot of problems.
It's interesting. The end credits, that whole sequence was one of the, I thought, most interesting things of the whole film. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It reminded me of, if you think of the end of Mulan live action film, they did kind of a similar
Which one?
sequence, Mulan, the
Oh,
live
okay.
action. There's
Mhm.
kind of a similar, or any James Bond film,
That's what it
didn't it?
reminded me of. It
Yeah.
was a James Bond opening.
It was the James Bond opening, right?
Yeah, at the
Exactly.
end.
It was very stylistically, that was very cool.
Yeah, visually very nice.
I didn't catch who was responsible for that. That was really nice.
But we both came to the same place, I think, maybe different reasons. And I wish we could say more about the reveals that bother each of us because
Yeah.
they're probably a little different. based on, but we both agree that I was I was into it at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I must admit, I saw the time before it started. I saw the 138
And
minutes,
you're like,
and
oh,
I instantly thought to myself, that might be a problem. And I tried, and then it started, and I said, well, this is nice. And then it got to the point where I know the specific point was kind of when she kind of has a epiphany, if I can say that. She had an epiphany in the movie,
yeah.
and
Yeah, you can say that. And I can say Craig Gillespie.
yeah, so and then she realizes that she's going down this bad path, and something big happens, and then we come out of that when we realize, oh no, that's not the end.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot more to go.
Right.
And I just felt it right there.
Yeah,
I
you're like,
felt
oh,
like,
we're only an hour in.
yeah, I felt like, oh, they're going to, where are they going to go?
Yeah, again, didn't hate it. There's some good things about it, some good performances. I like the two guys that played her grifting pals there. I'm calling them.
Especially
They were
when they
pretty
were
funny.
younger. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the one guy, I think his name is Paul, forget his last name. He's got a three, one of those, Philip Seymour Hoffman kind of names.
Mhm.
And he looked like he was right out of the cartoon with the hat.
Yeah.
But again, the grifter buddies, especially him, he kind of makes an impression on you if you see him, right? And several times throughout the movie, he's breaking into this place and they don't realize it's the same dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
I
And he's
know.
still wearing the same hat.
Yeah, he's pretty distinguishable.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
can pick him out of a crowd pretty easily.
Right. Again, we can be hard critics. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
difficult to suspend disbelief, but I mean, there was some nice directing, but it's funny because I went back and I watched not all of it, but I watched a pretty good chunk of the 96 with Glenn Close
Oh, you
and
did?
Jeff what's his face was in that from Dumb and Dumber.
Oh,
Jeff,
not
right?
Jeff Leahy?
No, no. That's isn't that the lawnmower man?
Yeah, it is. That's
Isn't it?
right.
That's a good call.
God, I know who you're
But you know what I'm
talking
talking about.
about.
That's terrible. I can't think of his
Oh, I
name.
can't. Oh, that
You'll have to
hurts.
grab that here in a second while
Yeah,
I'm
I
talking.
got to. Because
And
we went off the air last time and I hadn't revealed the name.
yeah,
And I
I
was
keep
so
wanting to say Jeff
mad.
Bridges.
Yeah.
But
No,
and
I'll get it.
Hugh Laurie was one of the the grifters in that. Again, it's one of like Cruella's henchmen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mike's
I don't
currently
remember
cheating,
him.
looking up Jeff's last name because
I
we're
am
having
because
a
I got to know.
yeah, we're having a moment here, folks. But yeah, it's some again, some of the performances were good. There's directing wise, there's some
Jeff
nice shots.
Daniels.
Jeff
Jeff
Daniels, there you go.
Daniels.
If I had gone far enough through the alphabet, if I just gotten to D, I would have picked it up.
Yeah.
I
You didn't have to
didn't
go
have far
very
to go.
far.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's again,
I'm
it's
surprised it's so high on the Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm not. Oh, from the critics or the audience? I'm not surprised that it's that high from the audience viewing.
I am.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They're
Not
eating up
from
these.
a younger standpoint. I think kids are going to like this.
Yeah,
But
they're
I
eating.
think adults would, if nothing else, the length would have turned them off.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Again, we're hard critics when it comes to
What
some
was
of
the
these
critic
films.
score?
74,
Okay, so that's more
but that's still pretty solid.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many that was out of, but anyways, so there's some of the good, some of the not so good, I guess. We've said we enjoyed some of the performances, especially the girl that played her, the young Estella.
Yeah.
And Emma Thompson and Emma Stone were fine. It's tough, and again, a totally different tone but Glenn Close is just hard to
Well,
like. How are you going to compete with?
but
And
you
again,
see,
it's not the same character, first of all,
right.
because Emma Thompson is playing the Baroness, so it's not Cruella. But in
But
this film, that's
eventually,
basically that same
right, Emma
villainous character.
Stone
Right.
eventually becomes Glenn Close.
Yeah, that's right.
So here's another thing.
But she's age wise, it's still, again, it's the origin story. So,
Right. But they really missed, usually they, like in Mulan, which I didn't like either, live
you're going to
action
start liking it
Mulan.
more and more. We get more of these films coming out.
That's one of the things that I was getting into at the beginning with the music. They're going too far with the live action stuff. They've got 6 on the docket right
Uh-huh.
now, and that's not counting Cruella 2, which I guarantee you was greenlit halfway through the making of this.
Yeah.
So they've got Peter Pan coming. I just wish they'd come out with some new stuff, new animated stuff. That's what
I'm
built this company.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, but that's not where we are right now with it. I mean, again,
Yeah, but you're
look,
not going to
you're gonna
see.
no, as things are changing now because theaters are opening up and people are gonna start going back in droves again. Then we'll see what the reaction is of these live action films. What kind of
We've
money
got
they're really
Jungle Book
making.
coming.
Right.
I think
They're gonna be pulling in the
we've
same
got
big money.
I don't know. I think this is going to bite them eventually because
I don't think so.
you know you make a movie like Aladdin and then you build an attraction and then you have a
Yeah, but
character and
I know, but look at with the Marvel
nobody's going to go
universe,
see The Rock.
but with DC and the Marvel universe, and it's kind of that's where we're at now with these live action films.
Yeah,
Those are
well,
the
you can't
stories being told.
compare it to Marvel. That's a
But
different
the
take.
animation is, we're not living in that wholesome period anymore. We're just
Yeah, but that's
not.
what people expect from Disney.
So they can watch Raya and the Last Dragon then.
Oh, good Lord.
That's not live action. That's animated.
I know, and it
Soul.
was terrible.
Soul.
Soul was excellent, but that was
Okay then.
Pixar.
Right,
Pixar
but
is their
still.
go-to. And I think the next release is Luca, which we're going to get free on
My
Disney
name is
Plus,
Luca.
and it looks much better than
Yeah.
anything. I think they're really making some missteps.
All right. So is
One
it fair
thing
to
though, before we go, I
Yeah.
wanted to say why, and I know this had to come up. Why wasn't there a cameo of the older Cruella? I
It's
was
not
just
necessary.
expecting that, like Mulan, at the end of Mulan, when
It's not necessary.
the original voice of Mulan introduces the live action Mulan to the king or whatever. Remember live action Mulan,
Yeah.
which you liked and I didn't. I hated.
Yeah.
Remember that was a big deal and people loved it. I thought for sure we were going to see Glenn Close.
Yeah. I don't need
Even
that,
if
though.
it was in the sequence where everyone was dressed up like Cruella.
No,
It would have been a great
No,
to
I
see
disagree.
her.
I disagree. I think that's tacky, and I think you need this film to stand on its own. Plus, especially if they're going to do a sequence of these films, the tone is way different. It's
Well,
there's humor, but it's a darker sort of film.
Glenn Close has already publicly stated that hey, she's ready to jump back in if they want to.
Of course she is, because it's a paycheck. I mean,
Yeah,
why
but
wouldn't she?
Disney isn't known for their big payouts,
Yeah,
Robin
I'm
Williams
sure,
Robin Williams made millions doing other movies, and because
Yeah.
of his kids,
I'm sure they really
made Aladdin.
I'm sure they really skimped on the check to Glenn. I mean, come on. They're
No,
making
they don't. They don't play
Yeah.
even big stars. Big
They were just
stars are
getting
attracted to them because, of their history and the quality.
No way. You're
Yeah.
just getting scale. Is that what you're telling me?
They're
just
not
making
getting scale, but they're not getting 20 million like they could get on other,
Yeah.
like Robin Williams at his peak, he demanded top
All right,
dollar.
folks. Well, it's lukewarm here at Oh Brother. That's about this one's like really flatlined, That's about I think where we're at with the review of this film. There's
I was
no
making some good points.
No, I'm
I
just
think we
saying,
should have
you're
seen a cameo of Glenn Close.
I
That
think
was like a
it's
gimme.
totally unnecessary. To me, that would have been very tacky. Why do you
No.
need that? Why do you need that?
Because people like me, who
Why not
know
just
that,
sprinkle in the animated Cruella somewhere in the background then?
that would have been probably a good
That's
idea.
or maybe Mulan, perhaps. Have Mulan in there. I don't know. It's
that
like
was
the super friends of all the Disney characters. Let's talk about something that we both can agree is solid, which is this very sweet gold special edition original trilogy set of the Star Wars films that I picked up over the weekend for $10.
but you overpaid.
Very sweet. I didn't overpay. You're looking
Well,
at
you
the
did.
wrong.
I showed you, like,
That was in pounds. That wasn't in US currency. So,
I can
anyways,
show it to you.
it doesn't
$5.99.
matter. It's a mint set and it's sweet. You know what, Mr. Physical Media? I mean, shove it up your where. Dumping all over a nice for a guy that hates physical media.
Right.
And is
I'm
going full
surprised.
digital. Right.
I'm
So,
surprised.
I mean, how about like a little optimism for 5 seconds? It's
Well,
like,
you know,
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
hey, I'm glad,
Good
jump on the
Lord.
physical media train. But
No,
you're never going to
no.
be able to play it because it's
You're stuck in the past. See, that's what it is. The physical media, you want the 1996 Cruella to show up in a 2021 film. You're stuck in the past.
No,
You're stuck in the
Disney's
past.
stuck in the past. They're the ones,
They're not. They're in the future.
rehashing.
They're not stuck in the past.
Rehashing.
That's the whole point.
This is a prequel we were
If they
talking
were,
about
this would have just
today.
been another remake. This was a completely different story. How's that stuck in the past?
It was a prequel. Just
Okay,
like the
so
Star Wars
give him credit for at
stories.
least attempting it. The easy money would have been to just do it as another remake of that.
No participation trophies for me. No, thank you.
You're all winners.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite Seinfeld scenes.
Exactly.
All right, well, no more to say about this one. So, folks, I think it's pretty clear we're not pushing you to rush out and lay down your money, whether it's on Disney Plus Premier Access
Or the theater.
or you're going back out to the theater. That's on you. But
Catch something else.
we'd take a pass on this one. Wait till it gets released, for free as part of your Disney Plus subscription if you're subscribed to that service, which is a good service. I mean, I still swear by that. But yeah, that's our take on Cruella. So, anything else to say before we close out this fully vaxxed episode of the Oh Brother podcast?
Yeah, fully vaxxed.
I see that.
Today I got my second shot.
Yeah, I thought you were going to make a
2
big
weeks
to-do
from now,
about
I
it.
don't have to wear a mask. But I
Yeah, just
probably
leave that
will.
on there, and then next, when you get to the election cycle, you can put the I voted one right
I
beside
voted
it.
right above it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Oh Brother podcast. It's been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
I hope so.
God willing.
Bye, everyone.